Welcome back to Are We the Only Ones? I'm Kathy, and today we're going to talk about something sad, but something very necessary for women's health, and something that both Dr. Vandana and I have in common in different phases. And because she's got professional medical expertise to talk about it, it's a better point of view than just sort of just firsthand accounts and anecdotal experiences. Now you also have somebody that can talk on a much more um, expertise level so we can kind of feel more understanding and maybe more growth after this conversation. So, welcome.
Hi, Kathy.
Hello. How was your holiday?
Holiday was holiday. Let's just put that aside.
You're like,
That
let's
is
get
a whole different vibe.
so,
Oh my God, no. Yeah, it was fun, but then
yeah.
there's only so much of holidays that we could all have.
Yeah. For me,
Yeah.
it's always heavy because
Yeah.
it's always following anniversaries for me that are like very, um, they were monumental
Yeah.
and life changing for me to the extent that it changed like my trajectory from a professional standpoint of like how much time I put into work as opposed to how much time I put into my family. So it starts off like December 8th is the anniversary of when I lost my daughter, but that was through a DNC at like 12 weeks. But that was not my first loss, it was my second loss. And because it was at 12 weeks and actually was it 12 weeks? Yes. It didn't feel as real as when it's like my first was at 28 weeks. And that anniversary is January 9th. And both of those are like they're weird. They're like an overlapping anniversary. So it's like 12/8 to 12/9. And then January 8th to January 9th, because I went into the hospital January 8th. And then I come out January 9th. And the actual delivery or whatever the date that happened, the thing happens is on the 9th. But it's still like it's to me like a bridge anniversary. I have to do both days hit me. Like it's not just one date. It's like, oh yeah, because I went in on this date, I left on this date, this is the official date. So even though in my brain it's this date, the reality is this, and it always kind of it's been like 11 years now. And so it's sort of interesting how it's getting better, but it's
Mhm.
still heavy. But one is more heavy than the other, maybe because of the length of the gestational period, perhaps, or that the delivery was a full delivery as opposed to not as like a full on like even though I had contractions for both and I was in the hospital for both. I was in a delivery room for both. One is a little bit more different because you have to go through the gestational process and you feel like you feel like kicking,
Mhm.
right? You have like
It's different
pictures.
stages of pregnancy.
Yeah,
And it's also
sonogram
the
that like
first
real.
pregnancy versus third pregnancy. So,
Yeah, but when I would deal with the mourning and the loss community, the one thing that I always made clear to everybody, because at that point I was in the third trimester loss moms,
mhm.
everybody that was in like first trimester would always downplay. And I was like, no, 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 no. I don't think anybody should be like downplaying their losses here just because like well you refer to it is different because now that I've experienced both, I can say from my personal experience explaining that it's feel different. But I don't think one would be like yours is not as important or as serious because it is the mourning of a life that you had pictured
Mhm.
going through even marriage. Sometimes you already picture a baby going through marriage, and then like when you don't get that baby to have a successful delivery, you have to mourn even that, even though it was
That
like a hypothetical
version.
thing. Yeah. And a lot of people don't know that. I think because for so long it was taboo to talk about it. And it was only recently I'm in that group where we helped break the silence because there was a movie that came out at the same time that we were going through it. So I went through it, then I found babycenter.com.
Mhm. Mhm.
Babycenter.com had a section for loss. So if you change the delivery, estimated delivery, EDD, whatever date, and then it was a loss, it like knew that like, oh, We are so sorry that you're experiencing loss. And then would you like to go into this category? And then you're in this whole other area that you didn't even know existed for lost moms. And it was first trimester and then second and third trimester was how they would separate.
Mhm.
And so first I'm in the second, third trimester groups, and then we're learning, and then we're meeting people in there. And I ended up meeting a group of people that we like got along in this one thread, and we're just always talking to each other. And then I ended up posting something about gun control, but I was talking about Sandy Hook because I was like, oh my God, can you imagine if we actually deliver our babies and carry them all the way through, and then this happens? Like, I don't know that I could mentally like handle it.
That was a lot.
Well, the irony about gun control was I got fully attacked on that site by all these lost moms. And so I was like, I'm out of this. I'm out of here. So then I brought my group with me. I was like, if you guys want to jump on to Facebook, I'm going to create a Facebook group. And if you guys want to be in it, we can just keep in touch there. And that's how it started. We kept in touch over there. And so we got to know each other. We've done like virtual baby shower things together, you know? So that was an interesting thing to me to learn these things, but you wouldn't know that without having to go through this because it was so taboo to talk about it. And then once I was in this group, and one of the moms, she helped, the movie almost ran out of money, Return to Zero.
Mm-hmm.
Minnie Driver was in it, and she was
Mm-hmm.
nominated for Golden Globe. Movie almost ran out of money, so they reached out to the lost community through a Kickstarter, and it was if you donated a certain amount of, the thresholds were like certain amounts,
Nice.
then you could put the name of your or whoever. But a lot of people would put the name of their baby that they lost in the credits. And for some people that didn't like properly have, because it's hard to sometimes do a funeral, a proper
Mm-hmm.
one.
Mm-hmm.
You just aren't in your right state of mind. You're in shock. I remember my social worker was like trying to rush me through the process. And this is like I had like a 28-week. I was like, what? And
She
so
was trying to rush you through the process.
yeah, like, I'm leaving early today. If you could fill out this paperwork, that would be great. And then one of the people that was with us was like, hold on, you don't talk to her like that. Like she just went through this whole like that. And I was just like in shock, like, okay. Because I'm a very efficient person. So I was like, But then I realized like that's not how you talk to somebody that's going through this. But this is again in the period of time when if you were a mom who was going through a loss and you were actually really upset about it, everybody was like trying to keep you from like losing your mind. I feel like it was it's
Yeah.
like this like fear. People would give you this look like, are you losing your mind? And you're like, dude, of course I'm going to more if I can if I can look at somebody who's going through cancer, right? And be like there and supportive of that. How do you not take that same level of support for someone who's losing a baby they
Yeah.
wanted to keep? That was like the easiest way for me to just like break it down. Like, how can there be such a disparity between how you would support somebody with this terminal situation diagnosis that has hope, and then someone who has no hope, has lost something so precious, and then treat them like they're a pariah for talking about being sad about it? Like, that was the craziest like difference to me to understand. And that's why I carried forward because I just decided I will not let anybody make me feel bad about being sad about this. Like, this is totally logical. And if you're going to try to convince me it's not, and that's how I moved through it. And then I collected like women who understood this, and I was like, I broke it down. They're like, you're right. I was like, no, I mean, that's crazy. Why? I'm like, and now I speak about it like this, like when men like have
Mm-hmm.
never had to carry the emotional weight. I'm like, how nice for you that you've never had to carry the emotional weight of women suffering and pain of loss all these decades. How nice of you, man. How lucky for you that you've had the invisible labor and emotional invisible labor of women all these years. Wow. No wonder.
Well, Kathy, that's deep. That's a lot. But I think what you brought up were a lot of good points, and I just want to go off of that. I think you brought up mourning the loss, the vision. not just the loss of the pregnancy and the baby and that future, but also the version of you, the version of your family, the version of your husband, whatever else that you had envisioned. I think that is um, critical. A lot of people refuse to acknowledge loss, and usually that's one of the key barriers in reproductive mental health. When they fail to acknowledge the loss and they fail to acknowledge the fact that they can move forward, um, but it doesn't have to be rushed.
Yeah.
It never has to be rushed. They have
Well,
to
you're
do it.
never going to get over it.
No, that's the thing.
Like,
Everyone says once you have a baby, I remember that being said a lot. Once you have your baby, once you hold the next baby in your hand, it'll be fine. But
oh,
that's
yeah.
that's it doesn't work that way. You mourn. You mourn and you mourn that thoroughly. Um, the second thing that you brought up was taking care of yourself. I think grief is a very hard emotion for a society to handle because they don't know how to handle it correctly. And the way women handle grief is by expressing it out, and the way men are taught to deal with grief is by internalizing it. So even though there is the emotional labor of loss of pregnancy, I have seen men who have been in the same situation where they've internalized it and they've brought it up and during therapy sessions or during support groups or even during friend conversations like a dinner party, where they will say, oh yeah, my wife went through you know this pregnancy loss, and then at the end of the night they would break down because they're not taught to deal with that grief. And it's not the kind that you can you can just put away and say, I'm going to deal with this later,
Well, it was
because
interesting because one of the voices for men
yeah,
that broke through was ironically Mark Zuckerberg,
yeah.
who wrote an essay. And I was very much aware, like, how interesting. But it takes someone of the same gender expressing it to that gender before we can break through to them with the
Hmm.
empathy
Yeah.
wall.
I don't know if it is, I think a lot of men wait for permission to express it. I think
Yeah.
that's where the stigma lies more than them not feeling it. I don't think that they definitely do feel it. They just feel a
Oh, yeah.
different version of it. But I have seen couples break apart. I have seen couples come together really quickly, and go forward with their marriage, or their partnership. And I think what helps is just creating small rituals. That's something that helped me and my husband a lot, and connecting with others who understood your situation. Not necessarily first trimester versus third trimester, but again, you know, having an empathetic support group definitely matters. When one where there is no other issue clouding judgment, one where reproductive rights don't come in, um, somewhere where political beliefs are held under the water until the humanitarian side of conversations are seen first. All of that stuff. And then you brought up a good topic of apps being used as support groups to create these postpartum environments. And I think that's critical. I don't know if you had an OBGYN, she might have pointed you in some of that direction as well. But you did have a social worker, so she might have helped you with something
There
similar.
was so for at it was the first one was at St. Luke's Roosevelt, which had their own like maternal wing. Like they have a
Mhm.
special suites and all this other stuff like
Yeah.
that. But their way of doing it, and I noticed even like talking about, because at the time I used both St. Luke's Roosevelt and New York Weill Cornell's um like the Medicaid, Medicare,
Medicaid.
Medicaid, Medicaid program. So then I got to also understand how they treated people that were on that program differently. Each hospital, one makes you wait 3 hours, the other treats you like a normal patient as if you're with full insurance, and it's a 15-minute wait. And in the same city. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. And uh just also bedside manner, like I got there was sort of like a generalized support system. Like we have a support group that's at this church. If you'd like to go meet every Tuesday, you can
Mm.
go talk to them. There's also counseling if you feel like you need counseling. And then it was a nurse that had called me for the follow-up, like I want to say it was like a week after. And I said to her, I go, actually, I've been really thinking about this and I just decided to look at it in this way. I think that this baby was sent to me not to ever, it was never meant to be born. It was meant to teach me that being a boss bitch with a corner office and a nanny was really not the way to be a mom. And I really want to be present. If I have another baby, I'm going to have to decide, do you want this career life or do you want to be a mother? And if you're going to be a mother, you're going to be this type of mother now moving forward instead of this boss bitch with a nanny in New York City.
You don't have to be a boss bitch with a nanny. You can be a career woman, have a nanny, and still have a baby. That's absolutely fine. You
Yes.
can be a stay-at-home mom and have choose to have a baby, and that's absolutely fine too. But I think what moved it for me was the legacies that came out of my support group. I think two of my friends started legacy foundations. There is one specific shout out that I have to give. Um, it's a nonprofit called Jane's Room. I found this through Kiki Kennedy, who is a fantastic person. If you don't know her, Instagram her. She's fantastic. But it was started by her brother, and this was for parents who were dealing with stillbirths, or a loss of pregnancy in the hospital or in a situation where other moms were delivering healthy, normal babies. So
Mhm.
they had to go through that grieving process in the midst of other families
Yeah.
celebrating.
Yep.
And the nonprofit is called Jane's Room. I think they're fantastic. They Yeah, that's something that I did not see when I went through a pregnancy loss. So I was extremely moved that someone had the courage to build something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but also the whole healing process, it doesn't take months, it doesn't take weeks, it takes years and years and years because you always wonder what if.
Yeah.
Um, and I know and not just pregnancy loss, even IVF.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've known couples who have done this for 9 years, 10 years.
Oh, no. I know somebody had 8 IVF losses
Yeah.
before they
And
finally, like it's a
and
lot.
you name each one of them,
Yeah.
you go through the whole grieving process again and again. And then at the end of the day, you have a rainbow baby. And um, pregnancy after a loss is definitely different,
Oh my God. It's so scary.
right? It
It's
brings up a
incredibly scary.
wave of emotions
Well,
because,
every single thing is
yeah,
scary. If
you're
you
touching
eat
wood.
beets and you go to the bathroom and that if you're tinted red at all, you have a panic attack. You like literally think you're losing and like these are nuanced things that nobody knows about unless you have these conversations where you get to
Or
hear.
red cabbage.
You just, yeah, anything like that. I remember freaking out and then going to the hospital and then realizing everything was okay. But I had to be monitored because I was what is it? Advanced maternal age, right? Geriatric pregnancy. And so I got to go every week and have it
Mhm.
monitored with
Mhm.
the belt with
The
like the
LT.
yeah. And so I can't imagine how stressed out I would be if I was younger and I don't know how long you go in between because I've only been seeing going every single week for the entire 9 months. But everybody's like, that's crazy. You went that often. I don't know how
That
often, like,
that is I mean, if you were, I mean, we call it geriatric maternal age, but then to be honest, it's maternal age at this
yeah,
point. The geriatric part is just a technical, bit for the doctor or the OBGYN to hold on to. Um, as long as you have your mental health is fine in these situations, I think you will carry through with the next pregnancy. That's been my general analysis of it.
but it's
Um,
hard. It
but
is a
it
hard
is super
struggle.
hard.
You're saying it like it's
Um,
so easy. The
no,
entire
no,
process
no.
is a mental health
No, it's
struggle.
not easy. I'll tell you
Like,
why.
which is
I'm
normal.
going
It's
to,
normal to have a mental health struggle post if you've
um,
already had a loss, right? It's normal. I don't want anybody to be like, it's not normal to be scared. So normal to be scared. If you're pregnant after loss, it's so normal. That's the hard part.
Kathy,
You have to have a scary pregnancy.
I
That's the
will.
normal thing.
I'm gonna share something with you that I took permission from the father to share. This is a friend of mine. We both went through pregnancy loss together. We were both there for each other. We both had older children who were the
Mhm.
same age. And after the second pregnancy, we were pregnant together at the same time, and then we had decided to go get our manicures done for the first time after giving birth and things like that, just catching up, right? But unfortunately, the 2 days before we were supposed to meet, um, her baby died of SIDS.
Mm.
And she ended up committing suicide.
Oh.
And I lost my pregnancy buddy. Like it was a wave of emotions
Oh yeah.
all crashing at the same time. And I was
Oh yeah.
still postpartum was hitting me hard,
Yeah.
right? So you're going through all of this, and at the same time, you're seeing that older child who is the same age as my older
Yeah.
child
Yeah.
go through this, and you're
Yeah.
like, I had a breakdown. So
Of course.
it's not just um it's not just the person who's going through it, but also their supporting environment and
Yeah.
everyone who's invested in them that goes through it with them.
Yeah.
So it was one of the hardest times of my life.
Yeah.
Um as an adult, I think to grieve not just my loss, but my friend's
Yeah.
pregnancy loss and my friend.
I know. That is so it was
But
because when I
yeah,
look
that
at
was
for me, so
exhausting.
my life is really, it's been kind of like, it's, I'm glad that you brought this up because I've only wanted to talk about suicidal ideation and suicidal in general with a physician or a doctor, psychologist, somebody professional on the pod because so obviously there's responsibility about it, but there's also an understanding that I don't think people have that like I can also add to this conversation only because so when I was a kid, my dad, for some reason, one of my mom's customers had a daughter who loved soap operas. She was very dramatic. She threatened to commit suicide all the time. My dad heard the story and then we talked about it because I met her and I would get along with her. And so he was like, "Ugh, if you ever decided to come home and say that to me, I would give you the knife." And I'm 11 when I'm hearing this. So I had never thought about suicide. I'd never thought about any of this. This never entered my mind. And then all of a sudden, now it's like on my mind every day. And so then it became a thing where it was just something I knew that people did. I didn't think it was something bad. I just thought it was like, this is what something people to do, like when they get upset. And
Mm-hmm.
then consequently, one of my mom's very close clients that was like one like a mother figure to me, she
Mm-hmm.
ends up getting a brain tumor and she commits suicide while we're in Vietnam. And she says bye to me. And this is like somebody we had like a standing. This is a group of four women that had a standing appointment every single Thursday, and they had no we'd gone rotated like family dinner, party nights, game nights. So it was like a major shaking up of my childhood. And so then I was like, oh, I really respected her. So then I always looked at that and not as just something as an understanding of uh like the Japanese do it, which is sort
Mm-hmm.
of like honorable in their mind. I wouldn't necessarily look at it as honorable. I just didn't look at it as the way that Western society looks at it, which is like the worst thing ever. You can never talk about it. You can never like, da, da, da. I'm like, okay, I understand why, because you don't want people to do it. In a Christian nation or Catholic nation, Catholic Christian based nation, where that's like a sin, a moral, immortal sin, you don't want anybody to even go into that direction. So you always try to guide people away from that. But then you can never actually talk about it in the deeper depths of how somebody works their way through that and functions with it, with the understanding of it in your brain, but doesn't like give into it. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I
Yeah.
think in Western society, sometimes like you think like the second you hear about it, you've got to be committed. You've got to be taken away. Like it's like no, sometimes you can have the thought and then it just leaves. You're not really
Mm-hmm.
like, or somebody has introduced the thought to you. Now you have to educate yourself. Well, what does it even mean? And now you got to function with this thought in your head because somebody introduced it to you. Not so much that you
Mm-hmm.
like manifested this idea as your like
I think
normal, you know?
ideation is extremely painful. It's very heavy. It carries a lot of guilt with it. But also it carries the guilt of your supporting environment as well. And the only safe way to deal with it is to go through it one step at a time. Um, and what I mean by one step at a time is to create small rituals to ground yourself, to move away from the ideation, or to move or almost distract yourself from the ideation process or the
Yeah,
loop
I mean,
process.
because to me it was the
Because
best saying to me was it shall pass. I would just constantly say to myself, it will pass. Hang in there, it
it
will
will
pass. This
it
feeling
will
will
pass.
pass.
It will pass is fine until the person is met in that environment again.
Yeah. And it's the final straw of like
Yeah,
how many times that they've said it to
yeah.
themselves.
Yeah, I think at that point it's imperative that you find a supportive environment, a supportive friend. Like, even if there's no one around you, call 911 or just go out and watch a movie, distract yourself, or, take yourself out of that environment, make the conscious decision to live.
Yeah. I feel like
Mm. And not
going
just
to a movie
live,
is
to
a
be
good,
alive, to be
yeah.
alive.
Yeah. Like you basically have to find what you love in life and go do it one more time.
Yeah.
And hopefully it re-fires inside your brain
Like the
the
Patronus farm.
dopamine and all the things that like remind you that okay, I can chill, I can hold on for another day. Because it is
Yeah.
really just like one day at a time kind of vibe, not like forever, forever, you know?
It's literally
But I
one minute
remember
at a time.
I remember being like young and just going, okay, if you can make it to 16 and then you can get in a car, you can go wherever you want. It'll be different when you don't feel like you're oppressed and suppressed. But that's also why like as an adult, I hate the feeling of being controlled because I need to feel like I have the option of being free. I never want to feel um put into like any kind of cage kind of vibe.
Kathy,
And
the,
so I
the the idea that you had to go through these emotions before you were 16, I'm so
yeah.
sorry.
I mean, every immigrant child, I realized my parents had their own trauma. Like they escaped, almost died. Like I totally get it. I totally get that they don't have the privilege of being able to reflect the way that I got to reflect. And I think every generation will get to reflect. And so that's what I bring to my parenting is like, hey, I'm really sorry that I didn't handle that well. I'm learning too. Like I'm better at like having those conversations. So then can see how I've stopped that. At least as long as I can stop that pattern of
Ideation. Yeah.
yeah, like the guilt feeling and
Yeah.
there's I think there's
The
obvious
hurt.
anxiety in my family.
Hurt
I
and the
definitely
anxiety.
yeah, and anxiety can be good because that keeps people alive. You know what I mean? Being an anxious person is what keeps you from like doing stupid stuff and like falling off a cliff or like whatever, like not paying attention to something. But anxiety also like when you have like deep depression in like pregnancy loss, stuff like that. I don't see how a woman and her partner could go through a loss and not feel a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Close to it, if not that all the way.
Yeah.
And certainly if you're going through it, how you would not feel it completely. You just, I don't know how you wouldn't. And then not be allowed to talk about it. Like you feel like you're like this weirdo, but you're not the weirdo. That's like completely normal for your
Yeah.
brain to go into that place as part of the mourning
Not want to
process.
talk about it or to want to talk about it all the time. That's totally dependent on the person, but that's exactly why there's therapy. And I cannot say this fast enough or, loud enough, but therapy has never hurt anyone. Even if you feel like there is absolutely nothing wrong with you, just go speak to someone or speak to a therapist or speak to like a licensed trained professional who knows what they're doing
Yeah.
to help you deal with emotions better, or to create those small safe spaces in your head. Um, and when I say emotions, it's not always like, it doesn't always have to be bad emotions. Um, I know people who've had pregnancy loss, they've come back and they've had another rainbow baby and they felt guilty about it.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that I constantly tell them is that you need to see a therapist because this baby is way different than your first baby, and you're showing up in if your first baby could see you now, the way you're showing up for this baby would not be the same way you would have
Yeah.
shown up for your first baby. So, um, it's hard. Those conversations are hard, and you usually don't speak to them until like, you're really close to them or you know them really well. But
Yeah.
even if you don't know them well, I think for older women, I think I put myself now in the category of older women who have gone
Yeah.
through
Same.
life experiences, right? So I feel comfortable talking to younger women about this. But also having had the experience that I've had, I've seen the array of emotions that women can go through.
Yeah.
So the first thing that I reassure them is that what you're feeling is completely normal. You do not have to fit into a specific mindset or follow the specific rules that society expects you to do. And let's start from there. Let's make that your starting point and let's take it from there. Because there's a lot of hurt, there's a lot of guilt, and it's extremely real emotion. And this is in a good partnership.
I was just thinking, I'm like, you've seen mothers that have delivered in the most impoverished nations, in the most
In the
difficult
most
circumstances.
vulnerable populations.
And then you've seen the most privileged people.
Yes.
But the thing that is shared amongst all of them is they are terrified, especially if
Yeah.
it's a first time mother, they're terrified that they're going to do the wrong thing, that they're not going to be good enough, that they can't feed their baby enough, that they can't
Yeah.
get, and that's the shared thing, no matter what income level, no matter how privileged, no matter what part of the world, no matter what, that is the shared experience. And you
That is
can
the
start
shared
from there,
experience. And you
you
always
know.
hold on to something. I'm going to share something from my grandmother in this time. My grandma had six children growing up. So my mom has like five other siblings, but she lost one pregnancy during all of that. And I remember her holding on to the blanket that she had wrapped that baby in until like my late 30s, like almost till the month or the yeah, probably the month that she died. I know that it was there with her, close to her. And I don't think any mother ever forgets. I think we tend to go through the motions of life and we tend to store them away in like special corners, but then
Oh yeah.
when moments come up, we always bring it back. And I don't think it's specific only for mothers, I think fathers as well, but it's less so obvious in fathers, or rather that they teach themselves not to show it. um,
Yeah.
because I
Well,
know
I
my
think
grandfather was like that.
for late term loss, so for 28 weeks or after at the hospital, they force you, at least they did at St. Luke's, they forced you to take a memory box home. And so I was like, no, 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 I don't want anything. No, no. When I came out of there, I was thinking like, I don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
It was interesting because for me, even though my oldest was a boy who had passed in utero, I was still under the same laws that would determine if you were allowed to have an abortion or not. And so they're like, you're really far along. We'd have to measure you. And I think you're probably too far along to be able to do that. And even if you did, it might be dangerous for you because the baby is kind of big now. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I had no choice. I had to deliver no matter what. And so
Mm.
I'm in a room where I can hear through the vents crying babies making it. And
Mm-hmm.
I have the realization like, oh, my baby's not going to be crying. This is going to be quiet, like, a totally silent room. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is the worst experience that a woman can go through. I'm like, I'm literally living the biggest nightmare that a woman can go through as a mom. I'm going through that. This is happening to you right now. Like that was literally going through my head as I'm sitting on the hospital bed because you're going through a reality check
Yeah.
of like, what is real?
Yeah.
What,
What am I
how did,
supposed to feel? Like, I think you're looking for permission of what you're supposed to feel. And there is no guidebook there. Um, there are no influencer podcasts out there who tell you what to be feeling or what to be saying or what to be doing.
and
It
you're
is,
not allowed to talk to a pregnant woman about death.
yes, yes.
It's considered very mean, rude, bad luck. So you cannot say it. So then when you're a woman who's going through that, you're like, nobody warned me. I have no idea. Everybody in the room is freaked out when they're looking at you too. They're like, oh my
They
God, like this
don't,
is
to be
so sad.
honest, as a reproductive health, as a doctor myself, some doctors know what to say, right? And that comes with the older doctors. But
But it's
then when they're
hard.
like brand new, it is very hard to emotionally express what you want to tell the other woman, because at some point emotionally you're connecting woman to woman, not as
Yeah.
patient doctor, not as nurse, not as thing. You're connecting there woman to woman or as a person to person interaction, and it's extremely difficult.
Oh, and what
Apparently
you don't
grief is
know
one of the most uh difficult emotions to handle for humans.
for that same day too, that morning, when that happened, I don't know if you know this. I don't think you know this. I had an interview for my dream job as the head of design director for dresses for Bajni Mishka. And I met with Mark James and Mark Badgley, James Mishka, I think it was. So I'm literally meeting the two dudes, the head of the names of the company. And when they see me, they're like, oh, because they didn't know I was pregnant. And so they're like, oh, come on in. And so I go and I give them the portfolio. They're looking through my portfolio. I'm 28 weeks, right? Because I'm going to the hospital later on because I started spotting that morning before leaving for the interview. And I realized like this is not a good color. This is probably a problem. But you really want this interview. You really want this job. This is your dream job. You got to just freaking suck it up and just go. So you understand why I'm in this robotic state already because I'm like, soldier through. Whatever's going to happen, you're just going to go through this. You're just going to hope for the best. So I go in there and they're talking to me and they literally say, as they're flipping through my portfolio, it's such a shame. You're so talented. But it's New York, it's at will. There's no illegality in that in New York State. Only in like California would that have been a problem. But in New York, it's at will anyway, right? So, and it's hard to prove. And also like it's a small like fashion environment. I'm not trying to like get in trouble and not be able to get back in the workforce later on.
Yeah.
So I'm just sort of, and I'm trying to also cope with like I'm about to have to deal with this reality also
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
So I'm dressed really well when I go into the hospital. Like I'm in my full like interview
Formal
outfit.
attire. Yeah.
Yeah, full formal. And there's another woman that's in the waiting room and she's also like very concerned. And I keep trying to advocate for her to go ahead of me. And they're like, how many weeks are you? Oh, I'm 28. And like, well, she's only 16. So you have to go first because of priority. But don't worry, we'll get you both in. Because she's screaming and I'm not. And so I'm like, she's obviously in more crisis than me. They're like, no, no, no. We're both you're then they asked me like, why are you coming in? And I said, because I saw dark spotting this morning and I have many weeks, 28. So they're like, oh, we're gonna get you in. So but nicely. So you don't really know that you're
Yeah.
in trouble yet, right?
Yeah.
Then you get in there and then they're bringing in the ultrasound, like the
Yeah.
machine to see, and you can tell in the face of the tech, like, um, I think there's something wrong with this machine. Let me get another
That
machine.
what is that what they
Then
said?
you're by the third machine, you're like, okay,
No.
something's wrong. Something's wrong. And then I'm thinking, I don't want to scream and cry in front, and all these women are in triage. I don't want to scare them. They're all having healthy pregnancies. I don't want to scare them. So then I'm trying to like not freak out, but also more improbably because I don't want to like in my brain, if I don't freak out, it's like, do I not love this baby? It's all this stuff is
Yeah.
happening. All this stuff is happening in there. And I'm dressed really well. And it's just this weird, it's just, I'm in a beautiful, it's like the craziest thing. I know I'm in the best location I can possibly be in. I'm as safe as I can be. You know what I mean? There's all that. It's like, at least that's handled. I'm not in like a bad hospital. I'm not in a dirty, like all this stuff is at least managed, right? But I'm also like, this is bad. I can tell this is bad. The way their facial expressions are, this is really bad. But be brave because you don't want to scare the rest of these moms in here. That's like all I'm thinking. And then they wheel me out, and the room has a red rose on it. And all I know is no other rooms have red roses on it. So this must mean something. And then I get taken in, and then it feels like there are people getting briefed before they get get brought into, get to talk to me. And everybody's really kind and everything. But it was definitely one of those moments where I started to realize like, oh, this is different. This is not. Because then when you go in and it's nothing's wrong and everything's
Hmm.
working out, oh wait, oh, now I know where this is different and all that you kind of thing. So because of when I finished, it was good. They let me request a Catholic priest to come in, and I asked if I could move my baby to the window, and the priest was like, I don't think you want to do that because it had been like 2 weeks inside, so things had started. Yeah, and also family history. I had an aunt who died because her baby boy in utero passed away, and his toxic cells killed her. So I already had one of my mom's sisters already had this happen, and left a daughter behind, and it was like, yeah. So this is already in my family history. I was very lucky. I didn't realize how lucky I was that I didn't die. Like there's all these other things that then I start to realize that in a way help you mourn
Hmm.
because you're kind of like, oh, I'm actually lucky that like I didn't die. I'm
Yeah.
actually lucky. So then you're like grateful and mourning. But when I talked to the nurse that was like, if you want to go to counseling, there's this. If you want to go to a therapist, there's this option. And I told her, I think this baby just meant to change me so that when I do become a mother, I'm going to be a much better mother than I would have been. I'm going to be much more present. I'm not going to care about my profession as much. Like it's not going to be a major priority.
Did
I'm going
you
to be a
at
better
some
mom.
point, did you at some point think that this was, um, I know you believe you're Catholic, so did it ever cross your mind that this was God's way of asking you whether you wanted your career or your baby? Because I've had a
In a
friend of
way,
mine go through that.
I definitely felt like what had happened was when I was doing the portfolio, I spent 2 weeks on that portfolio. I was like just so focused that I maybe could have noticed that maybe my baby Ty was not moving as much as he normally had been. And maybe I would have gone to the hospital. I was like so focused. And then I'd stop and I'd like wait and I'd feel a kick. But now I know it was a phantom kick because he was
Mhm.
already gone. But I was trying to like keep in touch with him in a sense. Like, wait, are you okay? And I feel like kick and I'd be like, no, he's okay. But there are moments during that time where I was doing this portfolio that I thought like I should probably go to the hospital because he's not moving as much as he usually is. But I was so locked in because of that. that really made me think, wow, I was so focused on my job, I didn't even pay attention to this baby that was in crisis and I didn't even know. So then that added a level of you cannot let work get in the way of your children. And then it added extra that when I actually was trying to go back into fashion, I would start vomiting for a whole decade. Anytime I want to do anything related to fashion, my body would start vomiting. And so I realized I didn't know that I could have gone to a therapist for that. I just thought, oh, destiny, the world's karma, whatever it is, this is how I am now. And then I thought that was it. And then I decided to do like for Vote Run Leah, the shirt. And it
Mm-hmm.
was the first time I got to do something start to finish fashion related where I did not vomit. And I thought, oh, maybe I'm okay now. And so then I started slowly going back into like stepping into possibly working again. But even now, like I am I got to reflect so much, like hearing the way that there was certain judgments, like even that nurse was like, "Oh, I've never heard somebody as healthy as you. You don't need counseling." But I didn't like the way she had said that. Like everybody that's going through this is the worst
I
thing.
almost feel like there is no guidebook or handbook for this, and people just spout everything that comes to their mind the minute they open their mouth. Like there is no filter because it's so hard to handle. But I do truly feel for you that that was the experience that you had, especially from your medically providers. Um,
Yeah, I
at that
mean,
point of time. It could have been so much better.
but
Um,
that was literally a time like nobody talked about any of that. So I understood like people were not equipped. Like
just
I'm
because no
luckily
one
like,
talked about it, it doesn't mean that it was the first time it happened.
oh no, you're right.
And
You're right. But there was no
and
books. I couldn't find
as a
books
medical
anywhere.
professional, I think it is the duty of the fraternity to train employees and to train every person whom you come in contact with at that point
Yeah.
to have at least like a role to play.
Yeah.
And if you do not know what to say, do not open your mouth, do not freak out, and definitely do not do it in front of that poor woman who's going through this tragedy all by herself. It is
I,
hard.
yeah, it's so hard. I think that movie made a big difference. It was funny because I was like, "Do you want to?" I asked like Eric, I'm like, "Do you want to put our baby's name in this movie?"
Mhm.
He's like, "The husband cheats on the wife in the movie." I go, "I know, but that's not really the point." He's like, "No, I don't want our baby's name on a movie where the husband cheats on the wife. Absolutely not." I was like, "Okay," but it's like, the interesting thing, just like the complexity of
Yeah, yeah,
humanity
I
and life
know.
and everything. And, like, how do you honor something? How do you have closure about something? How do you memorialize something? And it was funny. And then I realized that sometimes it just can't be perfect. It just can't be perfect. Because even like 10 years on, I thought like I would be celebrating at 10 years, we go back to Niagara Falls where we sent his ashes down.
Mhm.
But then that 10 year was the exact time that my mom ended up having her 1 year memorial. And then that also taught me something, a 10-year lesson later, that like you can't really plan
You can't plan.
and you
You
have to be able to
you never
relinquish.
plan these things, and you cannot plan these things. And I think there's a reason for that. And to be honest, just let it go. There is no guidebook, there is no handbook. If I were, if I were to encompass all my lessons together, every person I've met is different. Um, and everyone's starting point is different. I think you just have to have the empathy and the humanity to share it with them at their own pace. And I'm glad you have a name for your child. I really am. I think that's like a strong start. And I'm just happy to see you as a mom.
Yeah, I would have been a
And
much different
as a
mother.
friend, as someone who's
Yeah.
known you for like 10 plus years, I'm just so happy that you're in my life and
Oh,
you're like
dang.
one of my mom friends. But I'm I'm just grateful that I have people like you who share and understand these things.
Well, I think it's so funny how like the way that we met with our kids were
Yeah.
connected. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like their buddies. They're like, can we hang out? Like, why are you guys hanging
No,
out? And
you
we're not
can't
hanging
have
out.
a
I go, I
play date
know.
because we were having a dinner.
Like, we
Yeah.
want to talk. So I think we're bound forever
Yeah,
between, like my kids are always gonna want to hang out and see, like
absolutely.
Nico's always asking. So there's something different about a bond like that, like a multi-generational bond, like a real one. And
Yeah,
so I think
that
there's
goes
something
through.
interesting, yeah, where that holds on longer.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be seeing them through milestones and stuff like that. And it's also nice to know that we have a more expansive worldview. Like we take our kids out of the country. Like you're
Yeah.
taking your kid, they experience things.
Yes, definitely. I think experiences and travel and books and food are
Yeah.
probably the easiest ways to get kids to, broaden their vision and their scope of understanding and to build empathy and culture and, you know, bring in facets of art and entertainment and culture and music into their lives, language, obviously. But having said that, I think I need to go pick up my kids.
Oh, it's
Okay,
time. All right.
it's
Good to talk
time.
to you. I think next time I want to talk about like how we're gonna approach guiding the kids with like puberty.
Oh no. I think they're gonna guide us through it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna tell you a funny story. That's why.
Okay. We can start with that. Till next
All
time,
right.
Kathy.
Until next
Thank
time.
you.
Bye.